There's no way me as a human being, I think I have a great memory, but there's no way I can remember 12 months worth of conversations and nuance. But the AI can, based upon my instruction, go and find information and draw on that. And then my proposal becomes so much more solid, sticky, nuanced, impactful with that prospect, because it's drawing on my ability to understand how to work a client, the human piece, with all the data that I've fed it about the information that we've collected on that client and that prospect over the last 6 to 12 months. That's powerful.
You're listening to the Sales Today podcast, and I'm your host, Fred Copestake. On this podcast, we explore how sales professionals can develop a modern approach to winning business, the application of virtual selling techniques, how to create meaningful business relationships, and much more. Why not take our free collaborative selling scorecard to see how your sales approach suits today's environment? You'll find a link in the show notes. And welcome to this episode of the Sales Today podcast, where I'm delighted to be joined by Tom Ridley, who is an AI sales coach. So Tom, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the invite. Glad to be here.
Well, no, I think it's going to be an interesting conversation, because when we sort of just teed it up beforehand, you said to me, well, of course, Fred, it's not about tools, it's about being human.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that is probably not what people who are listening to this are expecting. They're probably thinking a long list of tools that they can do to smash loads of stuff out and, well, whatever. And you're like, no. That is not how it works. So tell me, where are we going with this then, if it's not about tools and it's about being human?
Well, I think one of the challenges I see businesses or even business individuals, salespeople coming across in their day-to-day is the fact that there's so much noise around AI, is that it's really easy just to get bamboozled, distracted, flummoxed by all the tooling that's out there. And let's remember, those tools, a lot of them are out there to sell, to make money, and they're trying to grab your attention and they position themselves as new and the best. But the reality is, there's a lot of tools that are very similar out there, and with some just relatively basic understanding of how AI works, how to communicate and get the most from it, you can achieve a whole lot. And what typically happens is people get so focused on the technology and the perfection of that, is that they forget that what they're really doing is trying to communicate. And that is what humans have been doing for hundreds and thousands of years. And that's what generative AI in this conversation, and we're talking about it now, is. It's a way of communicating with a technology that is deliberately designed to be human-like in nature. And it's just easy to get lost in the tech.
Let's just take a little step back. So generative AI, what do you mean by that?
So generative AI, as we currently know it, is a relatively new thing from let's say, a consumer or salesperson's perspective. AI has been around for decades, since the times of Alan Turing in World War II. So long time, in Bletchley Park. But generative AI is a relatively new form of AI where we are able to communicate directly with a program for all intents and purposes, and it can be trained on context and understanding, and we can use it to generate content, whether that's images, text, video. And it's different to what people have typically understood as AI, as predictive analytics, or those more, let's say, mathematically based AIs that people are accustomed to historically.
So if we're thinking about what we're talking about today, really, it's like ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude,
100%.
where it's putting words together and content, actually pictures like the stuff you said. Whereas you said, it's been around a long time, Bletchley Park, sort of YouTube, Netflix, that they're all using AIs to show you the stuff that they think you like, and they've done that for a ton of time before even Chatty came on the scene. Right.
Yes.
Okay. So let's double down on that one then, because I think that's what a lot of people would be thinking AI. So great. ChatGPT, if we sort of default to talking about that, there are similar things.
Yep.
This is something that we can use then to be more human and help us communicate.
Yeah.
Elaborate.
It's a funny concept because I think initially, and even now actually, we see people have huge concerns over AI, particularly around, is it coming from my job? Is it safe? How does it fit in? Will I be replaced? What if I'm not replaced, what will my role look like? The reality is that what AI should be seen as is a tool, and it is a tool to be able to allow us to do the things, frankly, that humans do best. That's the way I see it. So let's put that in a sales context. I don't know a salesperson, well, I've never met one in my career that has liked entering data into a CRM. I don't meet many salespeople that love researching 300-400 target accounts. AI can do that with very little effort, great consistency, and accuracy. And it's taking the tasks that a salesperson doesn't like, and then that frees up time or mental capacity to focus on the things that do matter. And I call them administrative and then value add or money making things. And the money making things a salesperson can do at its simplest level is have great conversations, build great relationships, understand their prospects and their clients more intimately. But AI affords you that opportunity. And if I say, go back to the point where I was saying about, say, the account list, if AI has researched your 300 or so accounts and it's established the top 20 or so that you should be going after and giving you evidence, you can now spend your time looking at those 20 specifically, knowing that you can see the wood for the trees and really getting under the skin of those prospects, rather than worrying about that massive forest of 300 that you had to sift through and try and find I'm going to say a needle in a haystack, but you get the drift. Much more
Yeah.
time focused on what matters rather than worrying or trying to work on what may not.
Yeah, so sales is about great conversations. And if your
Hmm.
sale isn't about great conversations, it's not AI that's going to take your job. It's a website. It's a basic
Correct.
website. Don't worry about the
Completely.
AI behind it, you know. And so what we're doing is we're saying, well, we can use the AI to get the stuff done that we need to do just because from admin side, or the prep done to get us into the conversation to have it better. And that whole sales as a sense maker and a better quality conversation where the customer goes, that's valuable. The conversation
Yes.
was valuable. Time with you was valuable. That's what I like. Again, forget about your product, service, or the rest of it. It's like, you've helped me get my head around this. It's like, well, yeah, I can because I've prepped really well, better than I ever could have, or faster than I
Yes.
ever could have. Probably better is it's the same level, but just more. We can have more
I th-
conversations. We go out and talk to more folk. Happy days.
100%. I think, yeah, the better subjective, and it's an interesting point about this. And we always see, well, what's the return on investment from AI, or what time do I have back? Does it mean I can work a 4-day work week instead of a 5? I think it will look different for everybody. It may be that you can do it better. It may be you can do more. It may be that the confidence in which you go into those sales scenarios or conversations is better. It could be different for everybody, even in the same business, in the same sales team even. So, but what matters is for you individually, and this is what I love about AI, it gives you individual benefit and you can choose to spend that on what you think makes a difference.
Yeah. I'm sorry if I've been doing some weird thinking later. That probably won't surprise you. Um, about how you measure return on AI, and it's to do with the sounds that customers make. So they go
Yes.
from nah to to okay to good to ah, you get it. You've helped me get my head around it. Not sure how we put those in a CRM. Anyway, that's a different matter. But it's
You could
that,
use
isn't it?
AI.
We are trying to get the AI to help us have a level of conversation that customers go, ah, yes, that's
Yes.
what I needed. Yeah, this
But as I
podcast.
say, you could definitely use AI to source those.
Scale that.
But
Listen to
maybe a
my
different,
conversation,
well, we might get
gauge the
there. We might
customer's
get there.
response, put a number on it. Yeah. Oh, you
Yeah.
got a 5. He must be going, brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's something in there.
Yeah. So again, so I think about the sales process or the framework that I use, value framework, which is about having the right research. Sorry, so look for the right opportunities, do the right research, to have the right conversations, so you get the right solution to drive the right outcomes. and the right outcomes actually should be attached to what the right opportunities are anyway.
Mm-hmm.
You're saying, well, actually, those first couple of segments, yeah, the looking for the right opportunities based on what the right outcomes are going to be and doing the right research to get into that conversation. You can collapse that. You can speed it up. You can do it better and do more of that bit, which only humans can really do in front of each other.
Yes. Yeah, and there has been a question about AI cold callers, AI SDRs, things like that. And I think you made the point earlier. If the sale of your product or service requires something more than people just clicking through like an e-commerce style on a computer, then you need to have great conversations, and those tools aren't in the position to be able to do that stuff yet. So, and I don't necessarily see a world in which they will necessarily take over. So maybe put everyone's minds at ease, because what I see, and I say this is actually an echo of, say, the COVID, is that people crave human connection. So if we can have more face-to-face or person-to-person conversations, then that's what we want to do. I don't think anybody necessarily wants to talk to a robot or an AI. So the idea that those things are going to come and replace us, I think, is, technology exists. It's possible, but I think the reality is it will be different because of just human nature. When it comes back, human skills are the most important things that you can do right now. Learn about AI and double down on your human capability.
Learn about AI and double down on your human capability.
Well, it's a differentiator that will, there's two differentiators. Those that can use AI now well in their work and their workflows will do things faster and more efficiently and with greater accuracy. And then those that have perfected or improved their human, let's call them soft skills for all intents and purposes, those that have really mastered those will be able to have the better connections with their prospects. And you need both. You can't just ignore it.
You can't just go, right, I'm doubling down all in on that. I've
No.
got to get that balance. And you might say, actually, I'm pretty good on my soft skills. Right, spend a bit of time upskilling on your AI piece. So actually,
Yep.
I'm all over the AI bit. I can get it to do lots of stuff. God, there's so much content and things here that I know.
Yeah.
But can you talk about it? Because this is something I look at quite a lot now, because there's so much AI content out there. And it depends on the person or who they are trying to be. And I look at it and go, right, could you talk on stage about that for 45 minutes and then answer 15 minutes worth of questions? Or if it's someone who's not necessarily purporting to be an expert, then it's more kind of like, could you chat in the pub around that?
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder if we're going down this route of people are good at the AI piece and they can crank out loads of stuff. It's like, but you don't actually know what it is you've created. In your own head, it doesn't mean anything. How are you going to actually use that to help people make sense of stuff? Do you think that's a danger? Are you seeing it, or is it just me being super cynical?
No, I think there is a danger with it. Danger might be the wrong word, but I think let's call it a false sense of confidence about certain things. So AI is trained, we use that term in the AI space, but it has the knowledge of the entirety of the web and whatever information you feed it. So there are some people will put out stuff. Large language models will state things like it's PhD level or beyond PhD level. In terms of the knowledge it has access to, that's entirely true. So if it's purely on knowledge and then being able to regurgitate that information, go into your AI, ask it a question, it will give you some information. You can sound relatively knowledgeable to your point for a pub conversation. But then when the rubber meets the road, let's say you sell something into a client, you still need to have an understanding of that client, their industry, the way that they work, the problems that they have, that goes probably beyond what the AI can do. So that kind of, let's just call it subject matter expertise or real lived experience, is still hugely important. And I think those that let's say run before they can walk in their specific domains or their verticals, whatever segmentation you want to use, will find there are challenges. So I think the biggest danger to an individual learning in this way is just doing the surface level stuff, regurgitating what the AI chucks out of them and not probing, not having critical thinking. And so keep probing. Like if you ask let's say you go to an AI and ask it about a specific topic, don't just stop at the first or second response it gives you. Keep going, keep exploring, keep learning. Because actually AI, that's one of AI's great things, is the ability to learn about a topic very rapidly in the way that you like to learn. But don't just take that easy scrape, superficial, done, I know about that now. Keep going, because you can get very deep very quickly and not spend anywhere near the same amount of time as you would have done historically. So I think that's kind of what you're talking to there, is this kind of a potential for this very synthetic or
Well, I mean, the
like
false level
glossy
of
exterior without there
confidence.
being much meat behind it.
Yeah, so the false level of confidence. I mean, if you think about Dunning-Kruger curve, yeah,
Yeah,
which is
well, yes.
confidence and competence. It's like, oh, I've got this stuff. I'm really good now. Well, that's the peak amount stupidity, isn't it? Like, kind of, you don't
Yes.
actually know you're not competent with it. You can't use it, and it
Yes.
just takes a little nudge on to go. Oh, actually, I'm quite exposed here. I don't know too much. So just being well aware of that.
I guess that's a great point, and that Dunning-Kruger effect happens at different points for different people. But in AI, the drop-off is massive because you've never been able to assimilate as much knowledge in a shorter space of time as you can with AI. So it's
So
like the
you
peaks
got
like
that
this, and
peak
you just
really
missed it.
fast.
Oh yeah, and then the come down the other side is, it can be massive when you reach the limits of the knowledge in that space that you've been working into.
Well, it can be, because if you use that false confidence and that fake knowledge, false knowledge, to get in front of somebody, and then you start the conversation, they throw a couple of questions, and you go, "I don't know." You are quickly down into, is it the trough of something like
Trough
that?
of despair or
Is
something
it a
like
trough? It
that.
is
Yeah.
usually
Well,
despair.
I
It's
don't know if
usually
it's
despair of
despair.
some sort, or yeah, kind of
Yeah.
humility or whatever. So yeah, we could use. So if we're going to learn with AI, just keep learning, keep learning, keep learning, keep learning, go deeper, go deeper.
Hmm.
I heard, so someone I know, so Nico Tobias Jones, he talks about it as a different way. So this is a guy who's into storytelling, and AI came along and he hated it. It's like, this is going to kill creativity, it's going to ruin us, whatever. And I got another mate, Paul Fernandez, who's pushing, got, mate, you've got to get your head around it. It isn't going away. Don't kind of pop your pills and do all this sort of. And then he had his light bulb moment, in that it's actually, you take your human piece, your seed, the bit, your lived experience, your subject matter expertise, where you're coming from now, and then you explode it. So it's
Yes.
actually you at the core of it. And then you can get the AI to very quickly amplify and get so much more out of it, and go to these depths that probably within you anyway, or building on your own initial strengths. And for me,
Yeah.
that makes a ton of sense. Rather than going, yeah, I'm just going to learn how to do this. It's like, well, no, I've already got this. It's what I am.
Yes.
It's what I've done. But I can get more of it very, very fast.
Yeah. It's and this is the reason why I talk about the fact, it's the tools are great, and there are some amazing tools out there, but if you just use some of the large language models like ChatGPT, you can achieve so much and not have to worry about other technology to a large extent. And give you a good example that puts into practice exactly what you were just talking about there. So throughout my career, I've worked a lot in enterprise level consultative deals that typically have sales cycles around 6 to 12 months, and sometimes stretch into years, right? So there's a lot of information. And I remember like trying to track over the years, like where we were in conversations, things that could have maybe been said 12 months ago on a call, for example, or in an email. And, you were, your success really in that space to track all those little individual things was measured by how well you'd say inputted that into a CRM or kept your notes or your account plan or up to date. So it was always down to you, the individual. Now AI can have all of that as a knowledge base that you can call on. So it could be trained like on that information for that account, that deal. I can then have a conversation today with it and start. And when I say conversation, I genuinely mean I talk most of the time to my AI. I do not type really ever now. I mostly just either have a back and forth, or I dictate and then wait for a response and then go back. It's a much faster way to work. But I literally could spend 5, 10, 15 minutes dictating to ChatGPT about my thoughts about what's been going on, a proposal that I'm wanting to construct and the key points I want within it and all that kind of stuff. And then I'm saying to it, right, sense check that against the conversations that I've been having with this client over the last 6 to 12 months, paying particular focus to these areas, these areas, these areas. This is all me going into this. It's my thinking. It's my direction. I'm going to use a term and we should probably come back to it, but it's my management of the AI. I treat it like my employee. And then there's no way me as a human being, I think I have a great memory, but there's no way I can remember 12 months worth of conversations and nuance. But the AI can, based upon my instruction, go and find information and draw on that. And then my proposal becomes so much more solid, sticky, nuanced, impactful with that prospect, because it's drawing on my ability to understand how to work a client, the human piece, with all the data that I've fed it about the information that we've collected on that client and that prospect over the last 6 to 12 months. That's powerful.
It is. So let me paraphrase to make sense of it myself. So I talk to myself. I type to myself, but perhaps I should start talking. Yeah. In other words, I've
Yep.
built my own GPT. It's got all of my content in. It's got 3 books in it. It's got a ton of podcasts. It's got blah, 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 all that stuff. So, yeah, so I can pull stuff out of myself by talking to myself. Okay. Because I can picture myself, but digital me. You're talking to the opportunity. You've made the opportunity a kind of entity, for want of a better word, yeah, with all that stuff that you have done, Tom's conversations, actually maybe some data about the account. You've probably got their website stuff in there and some other bits and pieces, but it's what's
Information about my business, like my value, the value proposition that we have and the products that we have would also be included in that.
So the opportunity is sitting as a thing that you're now interrogating this thing, this entity. I've got Borg in my head, but that's because I'm a bit weird. And you'll pull the insight that you actually generated but didn't quite realize you had, and then, oh, actually that went over my head, or that plus that, I hadn't put those two together because they're 6 months apart. When they come together and that's pulled out, oh, they're going to like that. They are going to like that because I don't think they realize that. So I'm going to take this little nugget, introduce it to the account, and that could speed up the conversation or help them get their head around something.
Yeah, and so it could be knowledge retrieval of something that would have been forgotten. It could be, like you're saying, joining the dots between a couple of different data points, or let's say them conversation points, because that's for the most part what they are, spread across a period of time. It depends how you instruct the AI. I mean, in some situations, it can be finding. It's very easy for us to often go into like take this information and create something with it mode, but there's also the opportunity to interrogate. So like, let's say, because I look at my conversations with AI, let's take this context where you said you turned it into an entity, which is a great way of thinking about it. It's like a contained thing that just got all this knowledge and information related to it.
It is a bit Borg, mate. It's Borg.
It is, yeah. I should call you Locutus, and anybody that likes Star Trek will get that reference because there's 2 bald-headed guys on the podcast.
If they don't, they can turn off.
Well, exactly, yeah. Showing our age here. But where was I? You've distracted me with Star
Sorry,
Trek.
you often use your entity or thing to create, but you're talking about interrogating it.
Interrogate or critique your own thinking, right? So let's say in my scenario, I was creating a proposal. I create it partially with AI, I refine it, maybe add some imagery, all that kind of stuff to it, and create a great document that I'm going to send to a client. I could then give it back to the AI and say, look, take a look at this. This is what I've created. Can you critically review this document and do so through a lens of, let's say I'm selling into a CRO, the lens of a CRO, and with the specific pain points, with the specific challenges that they have, potentially even linking to challenges or look for challenges that they have highlighted in our communications over the last 6 to 12 months. But I want the goal is to be hypercritical with the proposal that I'm sending out. And I want you to do 2 things. Create some objections or pushback on what I'm proposing so that I can challenge those. And maybe number 2 is I want you to suggest some ways that I might improve this proposal to make it more watertight. And it might be you actually separated those two out, because it might be I want to, again, exercise my human capacity to see if I can handle those objections before I ask the AI to think about ways that I can improve the proposal. But you catch my drift. I'm doing lots of different things with it. I'm continuously seeing how can I use AI at this part of the process, in this part of the process, in this part of the process. Because there's never a time in sales where you can't use it, in anything you do in life, not just sales, where you couldn't use AI to either create, question, improve, critique, feedback.
So going back to the value frameworks, going back to, you know, the one I know, people who I've worked with will recognize. So validate. So look for the right opportunities. Yep, AI is going to help us with that. Align. Research. Yeah, give me some stuff about that. Let's create some insights. Let's understand who's who. All that good stuff. Leverage. The human conversation piece. Taking what we've got, help me create some questions that I can use for them.
Mm-hmm.
You have to get over your ego on this a little bit. So I don't need a robot telling me how to ask questions. No, you don't. But why not? If it's going to just give you a different angle that you still got to apply them, you still got to use them.
Mm-hmm.
You have your conversation, real life, whatever. And sometimes you can't have any AI helping you, particularly people I work with, because you're in a room together. You're not on screen. You've not got a, like, you know, heads up display feeding you stuff.
Yeah, not yet. Not unless you've got the old Meta glasses.
Oh, you've got glasses. Sorry, while I wear my sunglasses to talk.
Yeah, yeah. Honestly, yeah, they help me see.
Yeah, so I need to see things better. What, like the questions I'm going to ask you?
Yeah.
I mean, and then, because I always have this, well, you can't record those conversations. You can, can't you? Do you mind if I record this so we can make sure we get all the best out of it, or Claude or something? I'm looking at that as a kind of cool tool. So then you're saying go back over that conversation and what bits stand out at you, or if you look at it like this, and there's the what's the really cool, the non-obvious, the non-obvious prompt. Because like the obvious things, they will know, they'll have got it, will have got it. But yeah, find me some non-obvious insights, which
yeah.
And then
So
we're
that's an
into right to
interesting
help me
one.
write the proposal. Right, critique my proposal. Look at the proposal of the CRO. Tell me why the CRO won't like it. Look at it as the FD. What's the FD going to say to
Yeah.
this? Bang, bang, bang. Very quickly, every angle that in the past, and I don't think people did this, but you should be going around your organisation saying, "Can you have a look at this and tell me what you reckon?" Bang, you've got them on in your pocket virtually.
Yeah, I used to to be fair, I do train on it, but we used to use a model called Radar, where we looked at role and audience and things like that when we were thinking about creating proposals. And I don't know why I say used to, because we'd still use that today. But so it's important in a room, particularly nowadays, we are very rarely selling into one stakeholder. So the ability to critique a piece of work, even if it's a slide deck, from multiple points of view, based upon the role and the audience and their objectives, their personal objectives that they might have as well, not just the business ones, is really, really important. We know we're always doing things like who's an influencer in the room, who's the economic buyer, all that kind of, like who's our champion, all that stuff. We are constantly being told in whatever frameworks that we use to look for those things because they're really important to a deal. Great, you've now established them. Well, then let's start crafting our communications to them. And I think great salespeople do it, but AI makes it easier. And AI can give you feedback on what you've done as well from those perspectives. You can like role play that stuff out, which I think is something that if you've never been in those roles can be quite challenging. Even with the best empathy in the world, it's still hard to put yourselves in the shoes of a CFO. If you've been in a really senior sales position, for example, sometimes you just think they're all about the numbers. But in what context? There's nuance to it, right? So.
Yeah, I mean, if we talk about numbers, buyers like numbers.
Yeah.
Heads of procurement like numbers. Finance directors like numbers. CFOs like numbers. They like numbers for different things and different reasons.
100%.
They try to achieve different stuff. I think this is really useful, and I work quite a lot with engineers, and they're very, very comfortable talking to other engineers at operational level. They probably almost don't need any help. Well, they do. Talk less about product.
Everyone needs a little bit of help.
A bit more about the outcomes that people are looking for, and you'll have a better conversation anyway. Stop trying to fix stuff immediately. Anyway, that's a different podcast. But it's not just them, it's these other roles, and they will be more than likely uncomfortable, but use this to say, look, these people are going to get involved. This is what they will be interested in. In fact, start earlier in the process, going, these people, what do they care about? I use rapid, I use rapid, which is kind of what's the role, what's the aims. Then I do the kind of act as and tell me what the pressures this person has, or
Yeah.
you have now, because the AI is being the person. This is where it takes a bit of, if you're not used to it, mental
It's a
agility.
mindset shift.
But
Yeah.
when you get it, it's like very easy to go, right, what's the role? What's the right? You are now it. How can it be? Because it can.
Yeah.
What's the pressures? What's the impacts of pressures? What's the desires? Right now, you've actually got a pretty good idea of what's going on with this person. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. You're not used to talking to. Right now, you can then, and you take, as you say, go deeper, deeper, deeper. Conversation on what are they trying to do with this. If I said this to them, what would they reckon? Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the rest of
It's
radar?
a
So you
mindset.
can't leave me hanging with half an acronym,
Oh,
mate.
radar. I'm just going to go back to it. I'm trying to think of what it was. Role, audience, aims is the other A. What's the D? I've just gone blank on it.
Desires.
It could be desires. I'm thinking it could be. And R was the final R is responsibilities. Is it
Yeah.
desires? Probably is in this context. Let's just say it's desires. Can't remember the exact one. But yes, that's good.
Well, it is now. New radar.
It's been a while since I've trained it as
It's the
radar
new
because
radar.
it's the
Radar
new radar.
2026.
Yeah, radar. Yeah, radar 2.0. But yeah, it's as like you said, it's a mindset shift. I think that's it's the biggest thing. But it's again a human one. And I said earlier we might come back to it, maybe just briefly, but it's the idea that you are managing something. It's easy to think about this thing, AI, as a tech. And in many situations, anybody listening to this will say, "Well, I've got AI in, maybe Salesforce in terms of its Salesforce agents, or I've got it built into my lead generation tools and things like that." And that's true. And they have a more restricted way of working because that's technology that's been built using AI. But if you're going to these large language models like ChatGPT, Gemini, and Claude, for example, they are so capable of doing so many more things because they aren't as tightly constrained, and the ability to take on different personas and do different things is massively important. And you then just got to look at them and go, I've got this employee that works for me, and today or right now they can take on the persona of a CFO to provide me feedback, and then in 10 minutes I can ask them to be like a marketing intern that is now reviewing my 3 competitors and building up a market analysis so I can create battle cards for them, or set traps in my upcoming meetings for my direct competitors, which is arguably going into enablement. But you get the idea, right? It's this kind of like this ability to switch, and it's your role, a human thing, to go, how do I manage that individual? How can I get the best out of the AI now that matters? And so what I typically see is those that have had some level of management experience typically get this idea of switching roles the AI quicker and leveraging it faster than, say, people that haven't had it. So again, coming back to those skills, and I'm going to put this in the human skills category, a little bit on like how to spot how to get the best out of people, but particularly communicate effectively when you want something and how you want it. So how can I lay out a task for, say if I get an intern on, how can I effectively lay out a task for them that's simple to understand, has clear outcomes and expectations associated with it? That is what a prompt is. And I have a prompt framework called RACER, and it's role, action, context, and expectation. And the final R is something we don't have to worry about. But it's like, so, but the last two,
I do worry
context,
about it.
well, it's refined. So keep going. So
Keep
keep going with the
going.
prompt. Don't just stop with that one time.
It was just again,
But
role, action.
role, action, context, and
Yeah.
expectation. And the
Yeah.
role and action are important. But if I was writing a prompt, a very big prompt, they could easily fit into 100 words even. But the context and the expectation might be thousands of words if I was writing a massive prompt. That's where the meat of everything is. It's where the information sits, the knowledge, all that. That's where all the knowledge we're talking about, a deal, over 6 to 12 months. That's the context. How do you convey that to your AI and say, this is what I want to go and do, and this is how I want to give it back to me? If you can do that, That's 90% of the battle when coming up with good prompts and good ways of working with AI.
So you said prompt there and sort of writing 1,000-word prompt and getting your head around it. What you said earlier, though, is that you chat to it, you talk to it.
Yes.
So you could talk to it with the Racer framework. So you could rock up and say, "Hello,
Yes.
Chatty. Today, you are the sales director at a medium-sized engineering company specializing in packaging machines. Do you understand?"
Exactly.
Yep, got it. Good. Right. What we're going to do then, and you go into the action. You tell it the action. Got it? Yeah. So you can talk to it and check it along the way. And that really is, yeah, that's for you.
Well, no,
just to break it down and get your head around it. Pretend you're talking to this person. I know it sounds a bit woo-woo, this, if you haven't done it before. But yeah, I call it chatty. Why? Because I do, in my head, think I'm talking to this incredibly intelligent person. Yeah, that's got access to everything that's ever gone on, and it can pull this stuff. And so you could use Racer in your conversation. So
100%, but don't think it's just for you. It's been proven that it's for the AI as well. So having a structured conversation is better than having an unstructured one when it comes to working with AI. So if you came in and so one of the things that you're talking about there is using advanced voice mode on ChatGPT, which doesn't exist on all the other platforms, where you can have a much more, I'm going to say realistic back and forth conversation where you can say a little bit, it responds, then you say a bit more, then it responds. That's what you were describing there. I typically don't use that for general day working. I might do that for like brainstorming and having a kind of literally a conversation, but invariably I don't use that for if I'm doing like a mega prompt, because it doesn't necessarily have all the access to the tools that ChatGPT would normally. Because in advanced voice mode, you've got to get a bit detailed here. You don't have as much access. But to that point of how I would structure the conversation, I could do two things. I could narrate for 5-10 minutes, which is what I typically do. But I do that knowing that I'm going to go through a framework. So I outline it and I'm just giving information. I'm copying and pasting in documentation as well after I've done my narration. I'm doing all that stuff. But so that's one way of doing it. Or alternatively, you can say, right, I'm going to go through we have a series of conversations and going to give you information until I say get going or start work. I just want you to listen to what I'm saying to you and ask any clarifying questions if you feel you need to. And then I can have that kind of back and forth dynamic with the AI. But it's more of I'm dictating to the AI than I am having an advanced voice mode conversation. And I apologize if it's gone a bit too deep, but there is a difference in the way that those two operate.
No, that's fine. But again, if you want to, let's take it back to simple. When we talk about a conversation, talk about a chat, it could be the same as you texting your mate. Yeah, you go backwards and forwards, don't you? You sometimes sit there,
or leaving a voice note if we're doing a dictation, which is how I would view it.
Yeah, so or you could you're typing into it. So right, bang, this is your role, this is the action, this is this, and we can break it down. And as I say, the reason I said because that's for my own brain, I have to break it down so I can make sense of it and where we're going with it. I know you could whack it all in at once, but actually coming out bit by bit.
Oh yeah,
it is for my benefit, but also the outputs, rather than look at this wonderful output, I'm dead clever. You've not even read it, Fred. You have an output, you've not read it, let alone understood it. Whereas if it's coming out in smaller chunks, it's like, I'm actually reading it. That's pretty cool.
100%.
Internalized, got it. I could see myself talk to the actual person about this. And again, that's just my own technique to how am I going to implement this? How am I going to use it? Rather than just, I've got it. Because, I mean, it's always been this, hasn't it? People buy books and have books. Right? Just because you've got a book, doesn't mean that
then you could do it. Yeah.
Yeah. I've read a book. I read 52 books this year. That's a classic at the end of the year. I read 52 books this year. What a week. Right. Okay. What have you implemented out of them? Well, nothing. Just read them all. Okay. Same.
Yes.
Actually, things haven't changed.
No, and to be fair to because your point's a good one about like not reading it. AI will typically continues to want to progress the conversation. So anybody that's used it will know that at the end of every every engagement, it almost asks you, what's that next step? It's a great salesperson in that sense.
Oh,
Like,
isn't it?
what's the next thing, next thing? It's always pushing the agenda. But really, sometimes you'll find, particularly if you do a lot of, or give it a lot of information, that you need to slow the AI down and say, look, I appreciate you've now mapped out the 7 steps that we might go through to create a proposal. Let's just focus on step 1. And that, so you almost have to like rein the AI back in and then go through stuff. So to your point, yeah, 100%, you've got to make sure that you're again, human skill, critical like scrutiny. I got young kids, and the big thing I say to them all the time is, I've got 2 boys. I say, it's what's going to matter for you in life moving forwards is your ability to use comprehension. How can I interrogate a source, understand what matters, make my own mind up, albeit in partnership with AI, and draw my own conclusions and make my own decision. Like, the AI is going to help you, it's going to give you information, but you still need to have critical thought. Otherwise, you are just going to be replaced by the AI because you're not giving anything above and beyond it.
This feels like we've time traveled. We've gone back to the 1970s when I was at school, and we literally had a thing called comprehension.
Yeah.
And you had to read something and then answer some questions about it to see whether you got it or not.
Yeah.
That was a skill that was being trained then. I don't know if we still do that.
Yes. We
Do
we
your
do in
kids do
some
that, or is that
subjects.
something we need to
Well,
reintroduce the
no,
curriculum?
no, no. They do it in English. They do. My kids are of an age where I know that they do it. If you go to do anything like history and things like that, they do it. English literature does it. But I think it will increasingly become a necessary skill and critical thought in general. Like, this is not a social media podcast, but like the amount of AI generated content on social media, the fact that social media exists and there's so much noise and fake news and all this stuff out there, the ability to discern like truth from, or fact from fiction, is really important. So I don't see that as an AI specific skill. I think it's really important to have it moving forwards in life regardless, but it's a very important one when it comes to AI, to keep your relevance.
Yeah. It's a bit like, why the hell was I learning Latin at school? Well, actually, it helped me learn French and Spanish and everything else. Yeah.
Yeah.
So why are we
Latin doesn't
doing
necessarily help
these?
with AI though.
Yeah. Why are we doing history? Well, actually, there's many reasons we should probably do history, but actually the comprehension. Why are we doing, read that passage? What did you get out of it? Because you're going to need it as you integrate yourself with the stuff that's available now.
Yes.
Interesting. Well, we've been chatting quite a long time on this, and I suspect, having met us both, we could go on and on. But okay, let's start to summarize this. So yeah, start where we finished. It's not about the tools. The only tool we mentioned is ChatGPT, really. Yeah, we've not gone on about all these things to crank out tons of stuff in sales. We've used this generative AI, Claude, Gemini could use as well.
Yep.
And how we, as the people, the person, is interacting with that to get stuff that then we can take and still be the person talking to other people. That's
Yes.
really where we're going with this. Anything we've missed out? What do we need to summarize, if you like? Hey, Chatty, please summarize our conversation and give us a pithy one-liner to finish your podcast.
Yeah, quite. I think, I suppose for me, it would be, I'm going to leave it with, I'd say there's a message. So I do a lot of work working out where people are in terms of their, people and businesses are in terms of their maturity when it comes to AI. I would say 95, could even be 99%, but let's say 95, let's be nice. 95% of the people I talk to are, for all intents and purposes, at the start of their journey when it comes to AI. And I had numerous examples at the end of last year where I was running training courses where we were leveraging AI in sales. And I said to people, how good do you think you are of AI? And they gave me a 4 out of 5. And by the end of it, they said, now I understand what you mean by good. I'm like a 1 or a 2. And what I was saying was good wasn't even crazy stuff. Like, it's not. So I was still delivering what I believe is it's not even relatively, completely accessible use of AI to anybody. So
It takes, sorry, mate, sorry to interrupt, but it takes a confident trainer who is able to take their people down in their
oh yeah.
in their
Because,
skill and know that that's actually a success.
it's the Dunning-Kruger curve, right? It's like to help them understand there's so much potential, and there is, but just doing that small bit makes a huge difference. So this is like my message of hope to people, is that there are salespeople, could be in your business, they will be in your industry, who are leveraging AI to make them faster, more efficient, more accurate, and all the things that I've said. But the ship hasn't sailed. You're not behind the curve. Get using the AI available to you now. Ideally, that would be what we would call a frontier like model. So it would be a ChatGPT, a Claude, or a Gemini. They're the most typical ones that you'll come across. Anybody that's using Copilot with Microsoft, that has ChatGPT in it. It works a bit differently, but fundamentally it's there. Get using that now. Get comfortable with it, and don't get hung up on trying to learn everything you possibly can about the AI. Don't worry about custom GPTs or Gemini gems and all that stuff. They will manifest, and you'll go, I want to take this a step further when you need to. They'll become apparent when that stuff. Don't overwhelm yourself with all of this thing. Just start using it. Start talking, whether you're typing or actually talking to your AI, and experiment. Understand where it has limitations, where it excels, and stop always trying to emulate what other people are doing with it. And what I mean by that is that people talk about prompt frameworks. I've mentioned one, that they are quite literally a framework. They are not a recipe for success. And just focus on your use of AI and measure it. Success should be simple as this. I asked the AI to do something. It gave me an output. Did that move me forwards in my activity and save me time, or did it improve the quality of what I was doing, or something like that? And some demonstrable improvement in one or more of the metrics that we might have. If the answer is yes, then great. That's what you should be measuring success on, not did I win an extra deal? Did I get an extra day of my work week back for something else? It's, did I do a better job in that activity? Did I write a better proposal? Did I have better prep for that cold call? That's what matters initially when it comes to the use of AI.
Because that is now internalized. That's now part of what you can do. You've developed, just like if you got better at questioning, or you got better at proposal writing, or anything that we might have trained pre-AI days. Yeah, you go, oh, you've got slightly better at that, better at that, better at that. It's not really going to go away. It's now part of how you operate. I like that, and I love the way you frame that as a message of hope. Actually, there is hope, and we hope that people can do this stuff, because it can make a massive difference. Where can people get in touch with you? Because I'm suspecting people might be thinking, well, you mentioned sort of doing some training, doing some coaching, ways in which you can help people. Where can people get in touch?
So LinkedIn, as always, everybody's on LinkedIn, right? Who isn't on it in this day and age? So I think, yeah, I'm on my search Tom Ridley Amplify Consultancy. I will come up on LinkedIn. I've obviously got a website, amplify-consultancy.com. You can go and take a look at. There's a lot more stuff on there about how deep and broad I go, from helping SDRs all the way through up to CROs, on how they can implement AI strategically within their business in ways that we haven't even touched on in this podcast. Systematic use of AI, infrastructure, stuff like that. And I also have my own podcast as well, where it's not just sales, but it's other stuff. So I do that with a colleague, Dexter Winters. So it's called the Business and Bots Podcast on YouTube, Spotify. I think that's it for the minute. I'm tempted to go and put it on Apple, but we'll see. I might defer to your judgment on that one, Fred, if it's even worth doing. But
I'll talk to you after about the best way to distribute. But no, awesome. We will drop those links into the show notes anyway, so people can come through to you. But
perfect.
Tom, brilliant. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing that. I think it's probably a different angle than a lot of people will have heard. And I really do hope that people will take what we're talking about, and this will make it more accessible for them. That would be brilliant.
That's my hope. Just pick it up and use it. That's what I want. Remove the fear. AI, just get using it.
Awesome, mate. Thank you so much for coming along.
No, thank you, Fred. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Sales Today podcast with me, your host, Fred Copestake. I hope you've enjoyed what you heard today. If you did, please get in touch and hit subscribe. And remember, you can take the Collaborative Selling Scorecard for free to check out how your sales approach works in today's environment. You'll find it in the show notes.